welcome to another episode of The Billy Ho Show. Now, when I was a boy, you used to be able to get these things, and this is a little walking pig. Little feet that just walk along, and a little curve down the bottom, so when he walked he sort of rocked a wee bit. So you put him on something and you just put a bit of a tilt on it and off he goes. Wandering down the page, look at that, isn't that just wonderful? And then you could get lions and dogs and zebras and elephants and Pluto the dog. But anyway, that was just a lot of fun back in the day. I just thought they were neat, the old walking animal. Look at that. And also we went to the 1:30 p.m. matinees at the local bug house or picture theatre, and we'd watch a cowboy show, and then we'd race home, and then we'd play cowboys and Indians when we got home. But in order to have a gun, we just pinched some pegs, so just an ordinary wooden peg, and you sort of slotted one peg into another like that, and bang, 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 we use that. But if you're real flash, you sort of stuck another peg on the top of that. And then you had a double barrel gun. Oh, bang, 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 bang. But I just remember, sort of the old peg gun. It's just, what you did. And I don't think they make these wooden pegs anymore, but back in the day you could do all sorts of things with a wooden peg, including hanging up the clothes. So, there you go.
I'd like to show you the 1954 Pacific they called Number 2. This truck has been restored by Barry Caulfield and his team, and they've been flat out working on it to get it ready for this event. Over the past 8 months, he's done an outstanding job of it, and he's ready to fire it up for the first time since its completion, really only a few hours ago. This is the same truck, brand new, delivered to KLC in 1954. And here's a shot of the 15-strong Pacific fleet in 1960. In 1966, the truck known as Number 2 was pulled off logs and converted to a crane carrier with an RB22 attached to its back and renumbered fleet number 701. Also in 1966, KLC repowered the original fleet with 250 Cummins engines, and this allowed them to add a second trailer. The truck you're looking at here is Number 30, and we'll be looking at this truck more closely shortly. About 1970, Number 2, or 701 as it was known, was sold to a crowd in Whangarei and converted back to a logging truck. In 1995 it blew a diff, and because of the unavailability of the parts, it was decided to scrap it. However, a man called Roger Croucher saved it from the scrapyard and took it to his farm, where it sat for the next 16 years until Barry got it after some negotiation with the truck's connections, and he brought it back and began to work on it and to get it ready for the Kawerau show. So good on you, Barry, you've certainly done an awesome job. As part of the Kawerau Mill celebrations is a truck convoy made up of classic trucks from the Northern Classic Commercials Club. Kawerau was established in 1953 and work had started on the huge Tasman pulp and paper mill. Kawerau was officially commissioned on April 1st, 1954. The huge pine forests that were planted in the 1930s were now ready for harvest, and the mill was ready to receive them. The small town of Mirrapara became the railhead for all the logs, and they were all railed down to the mill. Also in 1954, the giant Pacifics turned up, and they worked for KLC, the logging contractor at Mirrapara. And these two old trucks are remnants of those days. And I'll be talking to Eddie and Ken, drivers of those trucks back in the day, in due course. Kawerau hold an annual event they call Woodfest, which is a celebration of everything timber and forestry. Jumping out of old number 2 is Eddie Brass, and he used to drive that truck, and coming over to have a quick chat with Ken.
Will you be able to get up here?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Get up here all right?
You're my passenger. Hey?
Get up here all right?
I don't even remember them sounding this grunty. It sounds quite squappy.
How are you finding that one to drive?
A bit weird now.
Is it?
That long ago.
We drove for the KLC for, 20 years?
What?
How many years did we drive at KLC?
I drove for 20.
20 odd years. Amazing.
Eddie hops back in his truck, and we're just about ready for the convoy to have a bit of a drive through the town.
No horn.
As part of the Woodfest celebration, the Northern Classic Commercials Club have been invited to drive in convoy through the town, where they'll park up, and everybody will have the opportunity of looking the old trucks over, particularly these two old Pacifics.
Come on in. Oh, the steering's a bit suspect. Well, I've definitely got the best looking passenger, that's for bloody sure.
And the best looking truck.
Hey?
And the best looking truck.
Bit of a dinosaur. He still goes good.
This is probably the first time in a very long time that these Pacifics have been anywhere near Kawerau. And who knows, these boys may grow up to be logging truck drivers like a lot of other people who lived in Kawerau. And as I said, it's an annual event called the Woodfest and celebrates everything wood. And they do wood carvings with chainsaws and all sorts of wood associated activities. And there's a bit of a look around the yard, a bit of a demonstrating a wood chipper there, and the old kids on the merry-go-round enjoying themselves. And this man has climbed up those big high poles with spikes on his boots. He seems to be pretty good at what he does. And playing around a bit up there. It's a long way to the ground, but as you can see. And anyway, he decides, hey, I'm going to stand on my head. Watch this. So, yeah, good on you. Rather you than me. But back in the day, I remember guys sitting on poles like that for months at a time. Just up there in a little tent. Oops, he's away. Awesome. And a man demonstrating the old chainsaw, chips flying everywhere. And they have the old axe throwing competition, which is something we used to do back in the day as well. Look at that, not quite bullseye.
With me is Ken Gould, and you drove one of these things.
I did,
Ken.
Bill.
Well, we were driving the Commers and the old Austins and Morrises and things like that. And these were just right out of our league. These were just the most enormous truck anybody had ever seen. And you hear the stories of these giant things going down those, those dusty roads in the Koyangaroa forest. And what was it like being behind the wheel? It must have just been sort of, you reached the top of the tree in terms of truck driving.
Well, we had really, and I used to love it. I mean, with the biggest thing on the road, you weren't scared of anybody. And when you looked at that rear vision mirror and saw all those trailers coming behind you. It was a pretty special feeling, actually, you know. It was good. It was really good. But to look at it now, she's a bit battered and bent. And
Yeah, well, I'm sure you see what guys do with trucks these days. I'm sure they'll get this back looking, you know,
yeah, they will. It'll look really
what
nice.
it looked
when
like
they
when
get-
it turned up. Now, did you just step into this as the a truck arrived, and then you sort of thought, "Here's your truck." What was your your initial reaction when you actually saw this thing for the first time?
Actually, Bill, I started off on those ones.
Oh, the smaller ones.
On the smaller ones. I went to Murupara in 1962,
Oh, yes.
and we drove those. And then KLC built a lot of their own trucks.
Oh, okay.
But these came much later on. And to be honest, I never actually drove one for myself. You know, I was on the staff those days, and you didn't get much of a chance to drive these. But if somebody took a day off, you popped on one of these and drove them, and it was a pretty special feeling, all right. It was.
What were you driving before this? You spent your whole time doing logs?
No, I spent years in the King Country driving for Ben Bullock in the coal mines.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then I drove for H.R. Davies in Cambridge. He was carting logs. We opened up the port at Whangarei. We carted the first loads into Whangarei. Then I chucked it in and I moved over to Murupara in 1962.
And the other smaller truck over there, which I'll hopefully go and talk about in a minute, there were about how many of those in the fleet?
In the fleet, when I got there was about 12 or 13, I suppose, and they worked 24 hours a day, night and day.
Really? It's
You're
hot
off.
seat.
Your offsider came on at 6 o'clock at night. He started driving them at 6, and he finished in the morning and parked it in front of the fuel bay. You never did punctures or never fueled up. It was all done for you.
Oh, okay.
Then I came along in the morning and jumped in, and away we went
For another 12 hours?
for another truck.
So
Another 12.
where were your brakes in amongst all that? Or were
Oh,
you
we
on-
had breaks that we had good gangs, and they used to have some magnificent feeds, and these are little hot dog stoves. They used to cook steak, and matter of fact, we had one guy up there, his name was Cecil Howden, and those days we used to cart 1 month from one gang, and the Bushmen got a bonus, but we never. So if we kept the gang pretty clear and did a good bonus, they always used to give us a bit.
Oh, okay, yes.
So we had to, like, we wouldn't stop. We'd drive back to the gang, have smoko, and the skiddy would take your truck down, load it up, chain it up, and we had one special guy there, Cecil Howden. He used to cook steak. My God, he had a big hot dog stove, and the chimney used to get red hot. And he used to say to me, "How do you like your steak, Kenny?" I said, "Oh, not too bad." He used to put it in his hand and just go up against the chimney, turn it over, and do the other side, and that was cooked. But it was big, good feeds on a Monday after the Sunday roast. They all used to bring a leg of mutton and onions, and she was good. It was a great big feeds.
So really like getting up in the morning, drive a wonderful truck like this or that one over there, and a great feed sort of halfway
great.
through the day, probably twice a day.
Twice a day.
Yeah.
One 10 o'clock, and I think it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But good days, Bill. They were great days. You drive it for months and months, and you think this is so easy, and then one day you'd have a bit of a wake-up call. But they used to do about, I don't know, if you're lucky if they did 50 k's an hour.
Oh, okay.
So when you come down a big long hill, you want a bit of a thrill, you chuck her out of gear and just let her go. You get up to 90 sometimes. But they were straight, they were true, and they wouldn't move around. They were good as gold.
All that weight, I suppose.
Yeah.
Pushing, shoving. Yeah. Because you hear guys sort of losing it and jumping out. You know any of those stories?
No, well, we had a rule at the KLC that if you tipped your truck over
Yeah.
and you couldn't prove it wasn't your fault, it was
down the road.
instant dismissal.
Yeah.
And she's, we had a few. I went to sleep one morning at 9 o'clock.
Oh.
Driving it. I ran off the road, but lucky I never tipped it over. She ploughed through about 3 or 4 telephone poles and finished up. And
Yeah. How much of a ding on the front? Hardly any. I
nothing.
thought. Nothing.
Nothing. I managed to drive it back on the road through scrub about so high, and I just kept driving along, bolting all the scrub down till I came to a place I could get back on the road again the way I went. No, they were pretty impressive when they
Yeah,
were.
certainly were. Yeah. And the reputation. I mean, I never ever saw one when I was in that time, but its reputation preceded it. you
Yeah.
know. Guys were talking about these enormous Pacifics, and what they did and what they couldn't do wasn't worth doing. You know.
No, they were good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed them.
Awesome. Let's go have a look at the other one. you know what year these things came out? I think Barry is saying this is about 1950 something.
50 something, because well, I got to Murupara in 62,
Yep.
and these were here then. But I think they got there about 3 or 4 years before that.
Oh, right.
So they'll be in the 50s when the KLC first started. This is a Canadian truck.
Yeah, so that's how they got it in,
Yeah.
because Canada's part of the British Commonwealth, and so it's
Commonwealth,
all tickety-boo. Yeah. So this is much smaller than what we just looked at, but
Yeah.
of course this is here first. But, so back in its time, it would look just as enormous as that one does
it
now.
was quite impressive truck. And I mean, Synchromesh gearbox. Would you believe it in one of these things?
So that was beyond flash.
First place, you just change single clutch, or sometimes you change with no clutch. And they just used to go like the clappers. They'd do about 60 miles an hour, I suppose.
Really?
Yeah, or they could go. And
Wow.
they weren't comfortable. Like when I first drove them, they had no hood lining. And the frost at Murupara, they are pretty legendary. So when you get in the morning, inside the cab would be frozen. If you go a couple of miles up the road, you start raining. All the stuff used to melt on the roof, and so you had to wear
A bit of a hat.
a hat or a raincoat till she all dried out.
It's a lovely day today, sweetheart. What do you got? You're doing that, raincoat and hat on.
Take
Well,
the
I've got this
raincoat,
truck
yeah.
to drive, yeah.
But that's true. They used to frost up inside, and they only had one seat. Over on that side there, they had a great big battery box with a couple of great big batteries in them. But well, they were all right. I used to sleep in them at night. My wife made me a cushion that I used to put up in the corner there when you got to a gang behind another truck, and
You had to wait,
you had to wait, so you just put the cushion in the corner and put your feet up on the dashboard, and
have a bit of a snooze.
oh, no trouble.
Yeah.
Just kip off, no trouble. Loader driver would come along and bang on the door and wake you up. And
So how old were you when all this was going on?
how
How old were you, roughly?
I was about 26.
Oh, okay. Fit as a buck rat and bulletproof.
Oh yeah, long time ago, Bill. Long time ago.
Yeah. So as I was saying before, that with the they just look an enormous, awesome machine, and sitting up there day
Well,
in,
when
day
I
out.
first saw them, I mean, I've been driving internationals, petrol models, six-wheelers, but
Yeah.
and when the trailer was on the back and the bolster, you stand underneath the bolster quite easy. The load would be up here, and I'll tell you a story. You probably find this hard to believe, but I was driving one of those one night, no, one day. The lady in the forest used to work on the land and survey, and she used to take her kids to school. And I was pulling up, coming around a place we call Wairapakau that day, and on a sloping corner, I saw this mini miner behind me, and one of Stan Williamson's trucks was coming around, and he was turning right. And all of a sudden he locked up. I could see his brakes lock up, and I thought, goodness gracious me, I must have a log hanging out or something, and I couldn't see anything. So I kept going, and when I straightened up, this mini miner appeared. The only thing I can think of, she was trying to pass me on the corner. He came round, slapped on everything, and she went under the first trailer to miss him. That's how close it was. I saw her come out. She ducked out from behind the back of the truck and under the trailer. So I thought to myself, oh my God, you're either lucky or you're a bloody good driver. I couldn't believe it. She was underneath the trailer. And you could drive a mini miner under the pole those days. You could drive from one side to the other.
Wow.
So, geez.
So she got out of the way by getting under you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Eh?
That is amazing.
That's fair income. I tell a lot of people, and they think, oh, bullshit. But no, that's right. She was lucky.
Right. What's one of the best memories you have of these things?
Of these,
Every day, I mean, it must be great to wake up every. Oh, I get to drive my truck today. Yes. Oh.
yep, it was good. KLC was a great job. It was the best job we ever had. We all thought we had a job there for life, and when they closed it down, she was.
That must be a bit of a shock.
Bit of a sad day.
Yeah, yeah.
All the private contractors came in then, and
So what year was that, roughly?
about 87, I think,
Oh,
when
okay.
she all shut up shop.
Yeah,
And I went.
and just dissolved into history.
Yeah, it's just dissolved, and even took the KLC sign off the door and put a Tasman sign on it.
Oh, okay. Did you have much to do with Forest Products? Because they pretty much ran similar trucks.
No, I never had. I had an uncle that drove over there, George.
So where did your logs go?
They went to Kaura. All went to Kaura.
All came here.
To the mill, yeah, all came here to the
just
mill.
shoved into the mill for either timber or pulp.
Yep. Saw logs.
Oh, okay.
We did, those days we only had 3 cuts. There was a saw log, a long pulp, which is the risings at the top of the saw log tree, that's just better, and shorts. That's all we had.
Oh, okay.
So if you went to a gang and you had 2 pole trailers, you get 2 long loads, and
And a short one.
on the multi-staunch and one at the back, you get 2 packets.
Right. And how long was that trip to come here?
The train brought it all here.
Oh, did I?
With
So
the
you
big-
just took it to the railhead?
Yeah, we just took it to the railhead in Murupara. It's still there,
Yeah.
and the trains run out of there every day still. I think they do 5 or 6 trains a day out of there, but it's mostly all export now.
I remember seeing they went pretty close to Matahina a couple of times. They saw the P rifle shooting rabbits and these things go thundering by.
Thundering by, yes, yeah. Now everything went by train until later on, and then we started, when they opened up the $1 Million Road,
Yep.
we started sending trucks down there, but I was on the staff by then, and I never got to do that trip.
Oh, okay. Do you still enjoy trucks? Have you got a,
Yeah, I drive for Allied Concrete
Oh, okay,
in
yep.
Rotorua. We've got I drive a little Mack.
oh, okay.
It's a good old man's job.
The concrete truck, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
no hard work.
Sure. Well, thanks very much for sending us down memory lane and giving the viewers a bit of an insight into what happened with these things back in their day. And it's good that Barry's got this one out and he's restored it to what it is at the moment.
It is good. I was quite surprised to see it actually.
Yeah. So I think this was actually sitting up north somewhere.
It
in
was,
a
I think,
paddock.
in somebody's orchard.
Yeah. So he's rescued it, brought it back to life, and good on him.
It's done a nice job, really.
Yeah.
Melbourne Line, every time. Melbourne Line, available all over the Southland district and beyond. Top grade line that's been available year after year. Call them on 03 417 8228. The next time you need lime, think Melbourne Line, every time. What I've got here is a copy of Talking Trucks. This is a book I wrote a couple of years ago, and it's the history of New Zealand trucking. And it's all from the programs that I did between 2013 and 2016. I'm going to let this go for $25. So it's a special. Christmas is coming up. So if you'd like your copy, there's my phone number, 027 277 0717. Just send me a text or email me, billhohepper@extra.co.nz to get your copy. $25 and the history of New Zealand trucks.
With me is Eddie Brass, and Eddie, you drove one of these in the 60s back in the time, and what did you think of them?
Well, they're the truck of the day in those days.
Yeah, the reputation preceded them. We were hearing about them over where I was working up in Auckland and Coromandel and the Bay of Plenty. But these guys, these huge, enormous Pacifics going down with 2 and 3 trailers, and
Yeah.
just awesome. So when did you start driving them?
About 64, I think.
Oh, okay. And you just sort of turned up one day, applied for the job, and they said, "There's your truck."
Virtually.
Yeah. And you
I
think,
went in the bush for a while as
okay.
a bushman,
yeah.
and put in for the trucks, and a week later I was on them.
Oh, okay. And had you driven trucks prior to that?
Well, I told the boss I had.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, the time they found out you couldn't do it, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we learned as we went.
Yeah. Ask somebody, how many gears does this go? With this little button for, and you get told, and away you go.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
by about 2 weeks later, you've been
I'd played around with them enough to know,
Sure. Yeah. And how many trailers did you have on? 2
We
or
had
3?
three.
Three.
Yeah, not on this particular one, on the older ones.
Oh, okay. This is actually quite old.
Yeah.
Barry was saying this is sort of 1950 something when it came into service.
Yep, that's right. But we only towed one trailer with this.
Oh, okay.
This one,
Yeah.
and the next one next door. They were the ones that went up to the 3.
Oh, bigger engines, of course. Yeah.
Bigger engines and different braking system.
Yeah. Was this a bit higher, or this is, as it sits here, I think it's got smaller tyres. I think the when
Yeah,
it
it
was
has.
working, it had a bigger wheel,
Yeah.
which made it sort of sit about here, I suppose. Yeah. Heading down the road with all that weight up your bum, you were telling me before sometimes to just sort of make it go a bit quicker, you throw it out of gear.
Yeah, I think we
The
all
age
done
of-
that.
Oh, okay.
We all done that.
Yeah. And but nobody told you about holding your foot on the accelerator. Tell us that story.
Well, first time I threw it out of gear, it wasn't this particular one. It was the one next door, and they had engine brake
On the Jakes.
on the Jacobs, and all the drivers talked about their extra gear they had, so I tried it. And I had 2, maybe 3 trailers on. So I got it wound up and I threw it out of gear going down the hill. And I took my foot off the accelerator, which automatically straight out cut the engine.
Really?
So I had no power steering after that, so I was actually standing up inside trying to steer it, and I couldn't let the wheel go until I got it down reasonable enough to start the motor again. I tell you what, I've never done that again for a long time. That was only one of the few things that...
So there's more tricks with these things that we need to know about?
Well, we used to push them one another up the hills.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just get behind the trailers and just bump them up the empties. Some had bigger engines.
And some didn't.
Some didn't. So if you're in front of you, well, you got behind and pushed them, as long as the boss couldn't see you.
Was there a Ken was saying if you rolled one, you were more or less down the road unless you could prove it wasn't
Your fault.
Yeah.
I was one of the lucky ones. I never.
Did they? Was that told to you when you sort of started on it?
No, but it was just common knowledge after.
Okay, right. The camaraderie in the bush. So when you arrive at the gang and they're having smoko or something like that, you just sort of just go and join in.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
The big feeds.
Big feeds. A lot of times, like you go into the gang and you got to go down and turn around and come back. Well, when you got to know the jokers, you stopped at the gang bus. You went there to feed, and one of the skiddies took your truck.
Oh, okay.
And brought it back loaded, chained up, everything, so it suited us.
Just back in and off you go again.
Yeah, and off we go again.
How long did it take to go from the bush gangs and you just took them back to Murupara?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How long did that take?
About an hour.
Oh, okay.
About an hour one way.
And the power of this engine, well, I guess you didn't have to change down all that much. Were there any steep bits? It just depends on where you were towing it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Do you have to get down to first gear?
Quite regular.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All that weight and the
Yeah, and the
hell they
climbs.
go. Was the exhaust pipe out the front, like this one? No, like the old Euclids, the one
Yeah.
coming out the bonnet like this one. Is that what they were like?
Well, yeah, they had a bigger muffler on them.
Oh, okay.
Bigger muffler, but apart, this is it. There's a replica of it.
Wow. Yeah, let's have a look in this cabin.
But these ones, you only had the straight 5 forward and the transfer, 2-lever transfer. Not like today, you got all the extra gears.
Oh, okay. 5 forward
5 forward.
and a splitter or something.
Yeah. Well, it's not actually a splitter, it's a straight transfer.
Oh, okay.
That was your gearing.
Was it hot in there?
Bloody hot.
Really? When you're towing all those trailers, that last one, if you sort of did that with the steering wheel to miss something, what happens to the last trailer?
It virtually follows the movement. If you bring the front across a white line,
Yeah.
well, you guarantee that back trailer is going to do the same. So it'll sway, it just sways.
Yeah.
So I know sometimes we used to have, you get the highway trucks that come hurling up behind you to pass you, and I'd see them come up and I'd just go like this with the steering off or kick, because I know the trailer's going to do that. And man, you see their brakes going on when the trailers come out. Just little cheeky things, eh?
Did any of your logs fall off?
I never saw any.
Oh, okay. So when you get to the other end, there's nobody counts them.
No.
What's on there gets taken off, put on
Just
the train,
bulk.
and off it goes. Yeah.
Just bulk loading.
Did you chain them down?
Yeah, we had chains, but we never chained them like we do today.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just pretty
Just
rough.
hook them and just throw a chain over and hook it, put a little strop.
Yeah. Oh, well. Oh, well, that's an insight into the old Pacific
history.
logging days, and you enjoyed every minute of it?
I did.
Yeah, awesome.
Did.
Well, what do you do now?
I'm retired
Oh, okay.
and I drive a school bus.
Oh, school bus. Oh, okay. So you went on driving trucks after this?
Yeah.
Good on you. What was the flashiest thing you've driven?
Oh no, I actually went contracting. I was contracting for Tasman here for about 20 odd years.
On trucks?
Yeah, loaders and that.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Fair enough. Yeah.
And then I retired, so
Now the government pays you and
government pays me, and I just
enjoy
cart some
yourself.
kids around.
Fair enough.